Welcome to the S.E.M podcast. Jack Bryce here, hosting tonight. We're joined by our guest, Travis Trottier. Welcome, Travis.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Where are you calling from?
So from West Jordan, from my house in West Jordan, and I would say West Jordan if anyone lives in Utah. So
Okay. West.
West. Yeah, I'm pretty close to the Ochre Mountains on this side. So
Okay. Cool. You got is that Pratt's Hill in the background there?
that is, yes, that's the picture that President Sister Vereen's gave me for my wedding. So
Very cool. All right. Well, I think you know the format. You've been listening. We go over how you ended up in Scotland, and then we'll skip over and what you've been up to since then, and then we'll go back and reminisce. So if you want to start us off with how you got the call.
perfect. So looking back again, I'm not great with timing or everything, but I was looking back through everything, and so I kind of have to preface a little bit. So I was born in Utah, and then when I was 16, my parents moved to Florida. And so I did high school and some college in Florida. And that's where I received my call to go to Scotland. And that was when we go. So 05 to 07. So I received my call July of 05.
Okay.
And so when I received the call again, it was I kind of was excited. I was doing some college and classes and stuff, but coming up close to, I knew I was going to serve. I was just like, you know what? I'm not going to do school. I'm not going to do work. I'm just going to wait for my call because it's going to come. We put it in. And what's funny enough is that we actually got a call from church headquarters saying, hey, we need to talk to you about some surgery you've had on your foot. Can you tell us about that? So I had ingrown toenails for a long time when I was growing up, and I had a couple surgeries on that, and they're like, we just want to talk to you about that. But what's funny is that the person that called us lived in our old home ward in Utah, so we knew him. Anyway, it was kind of a crazy story. So we knew him, and he's like, we just want to figure out how that was, and so walking and blah blah blah. So I was excited. I really wanted to do a foreign speaking mission. My brother served a mission. My dad served a mission. My dad served stateside in Virginia, and that's where he met my mom on the mission. It was interesting. He got emergency transferred out because of my mom. Anyway, super fun story there. So my brother served in Bolivia speaking Spanish, and he did not want to go foreign speaking. I took Japanese in high school and was like, this is it. I'm solid. I'm going to go to Japan. I'm going to love it. And I got the call to Scotland, and my brother was floored. He was just like, are you kidding me? You're going English speaking to Scotland, which is foreign. And I was like, I really wanted to learn a language.
How it goes.
Exactly. I think most of us were just like, yeah, we want to go somewhere exotic, like somewhere different. And then I get English speaking. And so I opened up that call, and it was Edinburgh, Scotland. And my mom's like, no, it's Edinburgh. And I was like, what? I was like, how do you know this? And she's like, oh, I work with a doctor who's from Scotland. And that's how they say it. And I was like, oh, okay. And then we kept reading further, and it said Preston, England, for the MTC. And I was just like, well, that's not Provo. That's not in the plans, because the plan was to go to Provo to see my grandma and my cousins before I left. And so that wasn't in the plans. And so I got on the plane and left, and then got to the MTC. So that's how my leading up to Scotland went.
What months did you get out there?
I got out there September.
Okay. Cool. All right. So skipping over now, a couple years later, what you been up to since?
Been pretty busy. So when I came back, I left the mission a little early. So I probably should say I got to the mission in October, left the mission September of 07, went back a little early to see my brother get married. So instead of flying home to Florida, flew back to Utah. So my brother get married. I was still set apart as a missionary because my stake president wanted to do it. But since he was in Florida, he's like, I don't want to do it over the phone. And I was like, I kind of need to be released, President, so that I can be alone and not be next to my brother during all his bachelor party stuff. Anyway, so I did that anyway. So I got back there. Then that was a fun time, and then I moved back and forth between Florida and Utah for a couple years. Like almost every 2 years, I would move to Florida and then back to Utah, doing school. Went to Utah Valley, or I should back up. Went to LDS Business College, got my associates there. While I was going to LDS Business College, I was doing my private pilot's license for helicopters. And I received my helicopter's license, finished my associates, moved to Florida, and started doing more instrument training in helicopters because that was my dream job that I wanted to do, was fly helicopters. And as I was doing that, I was going and just doing jobs here and there and dating quite a bit in Florida through the singles ward. And then I kind of told myself I exhausted the pool in Tampa for singles. And so I was just kind of like, well, let's go to Utah. There's a big pool of singles ladies there. So stopped flying, moved to Utah, and started going to Utah Valley for aviation. And as I was doing that through a career, I was just like, helicopters is not going to be like a secure career. And so changed jobs and, or changed academics, changed education from that to computers. And as I was going through computers, I met my wife at the Harriman Singles Ward. And as we were going together, so then we got married. And that was in 2014. So waited quite a bit, and then we waited to have kids. And then it was interesting. So after that, after college, I graduated in 16. My first job was looking at a company called SoFi, and the manager for the IT department was a missionary in Scotland in the 90s. And so during my interview with him, he's like, so I see here you, like, it looks like you served a mission. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, where'd you serve? And I was like, served in Scotland, Edinburgh. And he's just like, so did I. And I was like, oh man, this is awesome. So we reminisced about that during the interview, which I was like, well, this is cake. This is a good interview. So I got hired on there, and have been doing just computer stuff ever since then. But I do miss flying. I want to pick that up as a hobby again, but it's just so expensive, $300 an hour to learn. So it's just like, I gotta make some money and provide for a family.
Yeah.
So, now we have two girls, 1 5 Violet, and a 4-year-old Violet, a 2-year-old named Lavender, and then we have one other girl on the way. So,
Hey, all right.
yeah,
Excellent. Sounds like a lot of fun and pretty busy, like you said.
pretty busy, pretty good. And now listening to podcasts and loving everyone else's stories and adventures that they have. So
Great. All right. Well, let's go back. You can start the MTC out into the mission field and let us know, who you served with, where you served, anything you want to talk about.
okay, so I've been thinking a lot about this, and I'm just gonna say this is my point of view. However you guys want to take it, this is my point of view. This is what you're gonna roll with. Okay. I get to the MTC. My first companion is Elder Weir. Now, we're only in the MTC for 18 days at this point. And I have 2 companions in the MTC. So I had in my group, there was Elder Hardy, Elder Peacock, which I loved his talk or his podcast. Garrett Smith, again, like Elder Weir, Elder Churko, Kahani. Anyway, we had a good group. So I was with Elder Weir for a little bit for the first, I think, week, and he was great. He was a little different, but I guess we're all a little different. He loved Rubik's cubes, and so he always had a Rubik's cube and played with it during kind of free time. So we have transfers in the MTC for some reason, and I get an English companion, and I could not remember the name for the life of me for him, but he went crazy, like straight up. I don't remember how it happened, but he went crazy and he started packing away his stuff in a suitcase and was like, I'm done with this. Church isn't true. I hate it. Like, this is the wrong
Yeah.
decision. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, what's happening? So I remember like vividly, he took his garments and was putting them in a suitcase and he's like, what am I doing? I don't even need these anymore. And like threw them in the room. And
Yeah.
I was like, what's happening? What is happening? So uh, someone went and told President Woodward. Anyway,
Truth according to you. Whatever you say.
yeah. Anyway, the MTC president, um, and we both went into his little house that he had at the MTC, and he just started talking to him, and he got on the phone with an LDS psychologist um, who was serving around in Europe, and he got a hold of him and started talking to him as a companion. And the MTC president, sat me down, and they were just like watching the news or something. So she's like, "Oh, Elder Trottier, here, come sit here. And do you want some ice cream? I'll go get you some ice cream." And I was like, "We should be in class right now. Like, I don't know, what's happening, but I sure will take some ice cream. This is great." So
Oh man.
that was interesting. And so then the MTC president's just like, you know what? He's fine. He's going to be okay. So we stuck it out for the rest of the MTC, and he
Wow.
went to serve in Ireland.
Not the ending of your story I was expecting.
No, so he was fine, and then I think it was like 3 months in to our mission, he left again. He left the mission. So um,
Wow.
super weird. It was
That's wild.
super weird. So that was the beginning of my mission. And I thought, okay, it's only up from here. Uh, it can't be that bad. Can't be that bad. So we left on the train. Met in, I think it was King's Cross is where we met President Sister of Rains. And I wrote this in the email that you guys did for the podcast with them, but I just remember how tall, and I'm a short guy. And pretty shy. I don't talk a lot. And so anyway, so we met them at the train station, and he was towering over me. And so was Sister of Rings. Like, they were just so big and so full of life. And I was like, this is what I need. I need the inspiration, the pump up to get going. And the APs were there. Elder Brownlow and Elder Farnsworth were there to meet us, and they took us in the van. Anyway, so then we did Pratt's Hill, and I remember dedicating the mission and having a good picture with them. And Elder King was in our group. Elder King was awesome. So I was trying to think of, so when we finished with that, we're meeting our trainers. So we get in this room, and I'm seeing all these amazing elders. And I was just like, oh, who's it going to be? And they had them all like kind of standing by the map for a little bit. And they're like, okay, let's get into companionships. And I was like, oh, this is going to be great. And I could see someone, I was like, he looks familiar. Where do I know his face? And it was Elder Osmond, who was with Elder Peacock. So Osmond was going to train Peacock, but I was like, oh man, how sweet would that have been to get Elder Osman. He's got to be like the guy to be with him. Like he's going to be the number one, and I didn't get him, but that's okay. I got Elder Wood, Elder Jonathan Wood from Vernal, and we were going to Dumfries for my first area.
My first area.
Which is awesome. When I heard you say that, I was like, "Oh, Jack, this is awesome."
Yeah, cool.
So I remember being taken aside by Elder Brownlow, by the AP, and he said, "Elder Trottier, do you know how to drive stick?" And I said, "Sure do, sure do. That was my first car, Pontiac Firebird. I got this. I can drive stick." So he's like, "Okay, it's a little different here," and I was like, "Okay, let's." So he's like, "Let's go through the gauntlet in Edinburgh," and I was like, "Okay, we can do this." So he gets me in there, and we start going maybe 2 streets, and I'm like, I cannot get the hang of this. I was like, I couldn't do the left foot, left hand on the left side. I just couldn't do it. Just couldn't, or right side, left side. And I was just like, I can't do this. Another brother, I just can't do this. And the cars were so close. Everything was tiny. The roads are tiny. And I was like,
yeah, that's quite the trial by fire going out in Edinburgh right away.
First day. So I was like, oh my. So he says, okay, great. We're going to give you an automatic. And I was like, okay, I can do this. So he gives us that green Corsa. And I drive that for, I think Dumfries is what, like an hour and a half? Close to 2 hours?
Yeah, if you go down like the A9 or whatever it is, the interstate, yeah, it's an hour and a half, 2 hours down there.
Yeah. So we did that. And I remember Elder Wood was trying to talk to me, and I was like, shut up, man. I can't like, I'm just concentrating so hard, white knuckling it next to those cliffs coming into Galloway. And I was like,
he already down there? Or were you guys?
He was already down there. Yeah, he was in Dumfries already. So I'm white knuckling it, and I was like, there's the cliffs that are just that into that valley, and I was like, this is terrifying and beautiful at the same time. This is gorgeous. So he frightened me. So that first day, or first night, he said we had a dinner appointment, and he's like, we're gonna meet with the Copelands. Do you remember the Copelands?
Oh yeah, every week.
Every week, she was awesome. Jill Copeland. She's still on Facebook. I'm still Facebook friends with her. And so we had dinner appointment with him, and so he played a trick on me where was Brother Copeland a member? Is he like less active or wasn't
not a member at all?
Yeah, that was it. So he's like, we got an investigator, and I was like, okay. And he started speaking not Scottish. He just started just rambling. I'm pretty sure it was just rambling. And I just sat there and just looked dumbfounded. Because even if he spoke Scottish, I was still way off. Elder Wood thought it was a hysterical joke to play on me. Because apparently they were bashing me or talking about me or something. And I was like not getting it at all. I was like, I have no idea what you guys are saying to me, at me, about me. And they were laughing, having a good time. But then Sister Copeland comes in. She's like, stop that. The elder doesn't even know what's happening. And I thought we were going to have a good home cooked meal because I was like, oh, that'd be nice. She has takeout, which was fantastic.
Chinese.
So, Chinese. It was a fantastic.
Yep.
And so we get back to our apartment. And it may have been the same flat that we were at. It was above the car shop.
They'd moved by then. I was in some basement place.
Basement. So we moved above an Indian car place garage. I think they just bought parts. They weren't a garage. And we get in there, and Elder Wood pulls out an Islamic rug and rolls it out and says, "This is how we pray." And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And he's like, "Here's yours," and hands it to me. And I'm like, "What? This is okay. This is how we do it, I guess, in Scotland. Okay, I'll go with it." Come to find out, it was just to help our knees because it was just wood floor that we were on. So, but I was like, okay, let's do this. So we had a lady who we were teaching, who was just about to be baptized. Um, she was a mom. Her name was Mariah. I have that down, Mariah. And I mean, she was a mom of two kids, and the kids were kind of paying attention to our lessons, and the husband was nowhere in sight. So as we were teaching her, and she was great, she got baptized, and um, Elderwood baptized her, and I think I confirmed. I don't know for sure. Um, but when that one happened, so we kept doing the new member lessons with her. Like we just kept doing the lessons with her just to keep her going, just to see how she was doing. So she was our main focus. We didn't do a ton of chap indoors or anything like that. She was just our main focus. And there's this one day. Okay, now this is my side of the story. This is my side of the
Got
story.
it.
Okay. One day we were teaching. The kids got home from school, and she was preparing dinner for us, or dinner for the kids. I don't think we were sticking around. And I was helping her boy with math and phonetics. So I was like, okay, I can help with this. And Elderwood was helping her prepare dinner. And he got stuck on something. The kid got stuck on something um, for me to help with the homework, and I didn't know. So I go in to get Maria, and the first thing I see is our new convert, or our new member, and Elderwood drop their hands and back away from each other. That's what I see. And I thought, what the cuss? I didn't say anything. I didn't say a word. I turned around and I walked out to the room, and I was like, I can't help you. To the kid, I was like, I can't help you. So then my mind starts going, and my mind is like,
Man.
this cannot be happening to me. Um, he has the phone and he has the car keys. So I thought, I don't know what to do. so, so then I'm just sitting there waiting, and it had to be, I mean, it may have only been like 10, 15 minutes.
I guess 5 minutes of your life.
It felt forever. It was so long just sitting there. Um, and I thought, like, I'm just gonna walk home. I don't know what to do. I can't call anyone because I don't have a phone.
It's terrible.
So so I so I'm like, okay, this is it. I'm just gonna go talk to him. And then I was like, Elderwood, and they're like, so Mariah says, hey, can we talk to you for a second? And I was like, sure can, sure. So I go in, they're sitting at the table, both of them, as they were having this discussion, and they said, do you want to talk about anything? And I said, nope. Elderwood, let's go home. And he said, okay. We drove in silence.
Oh man.
Jack, it was nuts. I thought, this is my trainer. When am I don't have my phone. Like, it was 2 days before zone conference. 2 days before zone conference. And the next day we were getting the elders from, I think, Del Keith, because they ran out of miles. So they were coming down so we can drive up together to zone conference. And I thought, I can last 2 days. I can last 2 days. We don't even have to talk. I'll be fine. So
I can see myself doing the exact same
oh,
approach. Like that's how I'd handle conflict.
you kept the phone. It's not like I could call someone.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, 2 days. I'm just going to be silent. And I don't think we did anything the next day. I think we really just sat in the flat.
Terrible.
And then the other companionship, and I can't remember who they were, but I loved them for showing up. I loved them for showing up. They came in and they're like, is something, they pulled me aside in the kitchen. They're like, it seems like something's off with you guys. And I was like, oh yeah. Oh, there's something off. And so I told whoever it was, and they're like, oh, you should probably tell president. And I was like, I know I should. So zone conference was the next day. We go up, and uh I sit next to somebody else. Like, we just split right when we got there. We just totally split. And so I was like, okay, I gotta go up to president and say, hey, I just need time. And I was so scared because I was like, oh, this is my trainer. So I go up to president. I was like, president, I need 5 minutes of your time alone. I need to talk to him. So he's like, oh, sure, fine. And he's like, everything's fine. And I'm like, the world's crumbling, president. The world's bad right now.
Oh man.
So I tell him everything and how terrified, and I'm like crying. I was like, I don't know what to do. And he's like, no, thanks for telling me. He's like, we'll handle this. We'll take care of it. And I said, okay. And I felt great. Like, my burden was lifted. I felt great. Um, and so Elderwood and I went back together. We went back to our area. Nothing was wrong, apparently.
Man.
So we go back to our area, and I think we're there for only a couple days. And President Vereen calls us up. I answer the phone. He's like, Elder Trottier, you and Elder Wood need to be in Edinburgh in the mission home right now. Right now. Pack a suitcase with just essentials. You two get up here right now. And I was like, okay, let's go. I don't know what's going on. Let's go. So we packed our essentials and we sit there, and he brings us both in his office, and I'm like, I did something wrong. What did I do wrong? And he's like, Elder Trottier, you should have, you've been great, but you should have told us sooner. You should have looked at this. And I was like, you're blaming me, President? You're blaming me for this? Me? I didn't do anything. It was anyway. So he just kind of taught me a lesson of like just being aware of what your companion's doing and what's going on. So we went to
That's a rough lesson to learn right away.
Isn't that horrible?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, these two things totally failed. My one companion MTC and now my trainer. I was like, this is awesome. Stressing out, freaking out. So I was just like, okay, I'll be better, President. I'll be better. So we're in the mission home for I'm in there for I think a week and a half. Something like that. No, it must have been just a couple days, less than a week. And I'm going on exchanges with the office elders, which was, I think Elder Stanley was in there, but I went with Elder Farnsworth to a couple appointments, who is amazing. I love that guy, stellar. He helped me with a lot of things, and so did Elder Brownlow. Like, they both kind of was like, you're fine. Like, everything's, you did what you did, and you're good. And I was like, okay. So then President Vereen's tells us that I'm getting Elder McDonald on an emergency transfer to come be with me. And so I said, okay, that sounds great. So Elder Cameron McDonald from Vegas comes back down to Dumfries with me. And we're there to finish up that transfer. And I think that was my second transfer. Yeah. So we're finishing up that transfer, and I get a call from President Vereen saying that my parents were going to call me. And this was in February, and I was like, this seems kind of odd. Well, definitely odd. Like, my parents are going to call me.
Yeah.
So they called me. My dad called me to let me know that my grandma passed away, which I had no idea. And so that hit me kind of hard, because I was supposed to see her before I left, because I was supposed to go to the Provo MTC.
Yeah.
So I didn't see her. So that hit me kind of hard on my mission. I lost 3 grandparents on my mission, which was so crazy. So I talked to my parents and President Vereen's and President Frederick quite a few times, more than other elders. So that happened in February. So then Elder McDonald was awesome. I loved it. He was very spunky, and he just wanted to work. And I was like, this is what I needed. Like, this is what I needed from day one. Um, oh, another thing. So Elder Wood scared me because as we would talk and get to know each other, he was from Vernal. He was homeschooled, and he took karate and was like a black belt and like a couple different karate things. And I was just like, dude, this guy's crazy. Now thinking about it, now growing up, I don't think that was true. I don't think that was true or accurate, but could have been. I,
Yeah. Who knows?
who knows? He was gonna kick me if I told something, so that's what I thought. But he didn't. Sheldon McDonald was awesome. I love that guy. Haven't talked to him since, but
Cameron, if you're listening, come on the show, man.
yeah, Cameron. So he was great. He was my second companion. We finished Dumfries, and I loved my first area. Um, it was
Is
a great.
Kate still around?
Is who?
Kate? Was she still around when you were down there?
Kate.
You would know.
I know faces.
You would remember Kate.
I don't remember if I remember Kate.
That's right. Carry on. Where'd you go?
I do remember Elder. Now I'm gonna forget his name. The 70. Oh, Kearns? Elder? No. Anyway, Care. That's it. Elder Care. Elder Care came to Dumfries, and when he sang, I love Elder Care. Like I love how he loved everyone. Anyway, he sang so loud, like more than anyone, and I was like, this is amazing. And he didn't care. And he's like, we should be singing loud, everyone. We should be boisterous. And he's a big guy. I loved him. Loved Elder Care. That kind of changed me too. I was like, you know what? I should be singing louder than anyone. Like, we're praising God. Anyway, he was awesome. So I was in Dumfries. Love that chapel. Love that Lord. Served with Elder McDonald. Great time with him. Nothing else kind of jumped out at me after that. So then, what's that? Yeah, nothing.
Good.
Yeah. The second half of my mission doesn't compare to the first half. My first couple of months on my mission. So I got transfer calls to go up to Elgin with Blake Bachholt, which he hasn't been on, and he needs to get on. He's a
Not
teacher.
the first time we've heard your name, Blake. Come on, man.
Yeah, come on, teacher in California. I see his. Maybe I'll try to Facebook him. I'll tag him in this for sure.
There you go.
Cool guy. I remember doing Elgin. Elgin was awesome. So I went up with him, and we didn't have a ton of investigators. We mostly just worked, mostly just chapped doors. I remember just doing some fun things with Blake or Beller Bachholt. We would just drive and honk at sheep, which I thought was hilarious and fun to do. That was our good times in Elgin, was just honking at sheep. So Elder Bachholt. And that was it. So I did one transfer with him. I couldn't think of any crazy stories with him. Maybe he can think of one, but I think of any crazy stories except for honking at sheep and recording it.
It's pretty cool that you went from the very bottom area to the very top area of the mainland.
Isn't that crazy? I know.
That is pretty cool.
And they put me on a bus by myself. That was fun. Just weird what they do with 19, 20-year-olds. They're like, hey, go by yourself.
Amazing. It's pretty amazing.
Nuts. Go riding around this country, and I expect you to be here at a certain time and not go gallivanting off.
If the church wasn't true, missionaries would have ruined it a long time ago.
Would have killed that off, man. Killed it off. So Elder Bachholt. So then I stayed after that transfer, and I got Elder Martin. Alistair Martin. I loved listening to his podcast. His stuff was great. So I do have to say, now that I'm remembering what he talked about, so Travis Trottier is my name. there are 6 members of my family, so my 2 parents, and then there's 4 of us. All of us are named T's. Um, I have my mom, Tammy, my dad, Tracy, older brother, Tim, me, Travis, and then my 2 sisters, which are Tristan and Talana. So we're all T's. We even named the cat T's. Our dog was named Tori. Like, we were just T's. That's what we did. And we had a license plate on our big van that said 6 double T's is what we were. So kind of crazy. I
There you
remember
go.
that. It was pretty cool. So, and yes, Alistair, I did become a helicopter pilot. It is amazing. And I love flying. So with other Martin, we found an investigator named, what was her name? I think it's Emma. I think her name was Emma. And we taught her, but I'm pretty sure. So she was a new mom. She had like a 2 or 3 month old, very young baby. And I'm pretty sure that she just came along with us because of Elder Martin. I think she was liking him quite a bit. Excuse me, and I can see that. I loved Al. I loved Al. I would hardly ever call him now, but I loved Alistair. He was fantastic. He taught me a lot. He taught me, again, like, his dad was a Jehovah's Witness. He grew up just kind of like a Sheffield boy. Like, he was Sheffield through and through. Like, but he always looked proper. He had French cuff shirts on with cufflinks. I thought that was the coolest thing, is cufflinks. And so I started getting into cufflinks because of him, and big ties and all that stuff.
Nice.
He was just a cool kid, but kind of wild when he was with me. He definitely wasn't as structured as McDonald and or as other Bacall. Like, he was just kind of like, yo, let's just go do this. Let's just go talk to people. And I was like, I don't want to talk to people. I'm quiet, man. You go talk to people. He could carry on the conversation, and I would just sit there and say, I testify again. Yeah, whatever he says is absolutely true. Like, I testify that. That was my job with him, and I loved him. So he taught me to get into football. But I do remember this, and I'll call him out. He wanted to play a game with me, see who could hit the hardest. And I thought, this sounds like the stupidest game ever. But I was like, you know what? And he kept egging it on. Hey, let's see who can hit harder. Let's see. And I am 5'5", if that. He's like 5'10", and has been, like, did boxing and stuff as a kid. And I was like, I can't do this. So I was like, fine, just hit me. So he winds up and puts out his knuckle and just nails me in the arm and shoulder. Nails me. And I just took it. And I was like, see? Not a fun game. And then I go into the other room, and I'm just like in so much pain and just grabbing my arm, just in so much pain. And I mean, good for him. He wanted. I played with him, and I said, okay, I'm not hitting you back. You can hit me. And so he stopped wanting to play the game because I wouldn't give him the reaction that he wanted.
Oh man.
So I remember doing that with him, and I remember his story of when he picked up Emma to go to the church by herself. The ward was good, but they just didn't want to put forth other effort for new converts. So I remember he went and picked her up to bring her to the church for it was actually for kind of a recital we had. We had another investigator who played the cello, and he did "Near My God to Thee," or I think he did like 3 songs on the cello at church, and it sounded beautiful. It was a great fireside, and after that fireside, that investigator kind of fizzled. I think he just kind of wanted to practice, and to kind of have a kind of a recital. Um, so, but he was great, and um, Martin really wanted to bring her, so he did it. He drove drove alone, and he's driving with a baby too in the car with with our investigator. Oh my goodness! But it was fine. Nothing happened. She just fancied him. Um, so yeah, so that was a good companionship. I really liked him. And he got me into again more English and British stuff. Um, Playing soccer. You got to have your kit. Need your shoes, and I was like, I'm not going to pay for all this stuff. What are you kidding me? So that was Elgin, and I did that with him, and then um, I went from Elgin to Kilmarnock with Elder Charles Noble. Do you know Elder Noble?
I served with him.
He's
We've got him scheduled to come on the show.
good, and I hope he hears mine. I love that guy. I love that guy. He was a bishop as a missionary. Like he just loved, and he just had that bishopness about him. I don't know if you got that from him, but he just had that. Like I'll go to work and I'll do what I can, and but I'll try to be cool as I do it. Was his kind of thing. Um, and I liked him, and I can't remember if I killed him off, if I was his last transfer.
That would have been close to the time. So maybe
because I was kind of close to him. Yeah, that was kind of very close.
he's one that I met up with after the mission because we're both from Arizona. So
Oh man,
actually, I went and met his family and took him out to lunch, and yeah, it was good.
do you reminisce about having the same hairstyle now? No, maybe a
No,
little. Oh, okay.
I haven't seen him in forever, like at least 15 years. I haven't
Yeah,
seen him.
he's a good guy. I liked
Yeah,
him. He helped me a lot too. He helped me. He was one of the older missionaries, like I said. Like I may have killed him off. Um, and he taught me more of like just taking things as they come. Um, but we were in Kilmarnock, and Kilmarnock was rough. That was a rough area. Um, we did not have a big teaching pool. Um, so we just knocked doors a lot, and that was kind of hard. And so we didn't have the big teaching pool. Um, and when he left, they wanted to make me a trainer, and so that's when I had Elder Stoddard, Anthony Stoddard, um, and I like that kid, but man, was that a rough transfer? Was that a rough companionship? Oh man. So he's from Utah. He's from actually West Jordan too. So we got along in that aspect, but we were completely different. He came, and I know he told stories about me, and so I'll tell stories about him. Um, he came into the mission as a deer in the headlights. When he came to the mission home and we were doing companionships and showing stuff, there is a picture that I have to find of us standing next to the map and pointing where we were going, and his face is literally like just mouth slightly open, big eyes, just like dead inside. He's like, he had no clue what was happening. And I'm like, Elder Stoddard, this is gonna be awesome. This is gonna be great. We're gonna have so much fun. And he's just like so mellow and monotoned, and nothing's going to change my voice. And I was like, dude, this is gonna be awesome. This is gonna be rough. This is gonna be a hard time. So we get back to Kilmarnock, and as we're pulling his suitcases, it's probably about 8 o'clock when we were getting back to our flat. And there's this drunk man just on the street, just yelling walking crazy. And he's like, this is the other starter's just like, I don't know what he's saying. And I was like, it's okay. I don't really know what he's saying either. He's drunk. But I was like, but those are the people that we teach. And he's like, what? And I was like, yeah, yeah. And he's like, I don't know. And I was like, you can do this. Like, you can do this. So we get back and we open up our first day. And he's like, I was like, so we don't have any investigators. We don't really have a teaching pool. And yep, let's go to work. So it wasn't a great setup for us. And I had a hard time training. I started getting really stressed out, um, and just being like, I don't know what to do. Nothing's really happening. Um, the ward was stagnant. Nothing new was coming in, and like no new families were moving in or anything. Like it was just kind of stale. And I mean, we didn't even have an organist. I remember pushing play on a stereo and holding the microphone so we could sing songs. Um, so it was just kind of a stale ward, and we had a stale pool. And so I started stressing myself out, and so I started getting really sick. Um, Stomach was hurting, and I know he said this, and I'll share my story. Um, I started getting stomach problems, like I could not move. That it was so bad, and so I started. I was just like, stop. I was just like, oh, Stoddard, I can't go out. I can't walk. I can't just go out and walk. I'm just sick, and um, I had to go to the bathroom a lot, and I was just like, I just can't do this. So we would stay in our flat um, for a couple hours. I would take naps, and then we'd go out in the evenings or try to do something, and then we come back and we kind of the same process. Like we just didn't really do much, and I wasn't a good trainer.
Rough.
Was that?
It's just rough.
It was. So then I started going to see doctors because I was like, this can't be right. And so I remember going to see one. One was just like, well, it sounds like you kind of have irritable bowel syndrome, and you should probably stay away from like spicy foods and that stuff. And I was like, well, most of the stuff's bland here, so that's fine. I can stay away from spicy, but I love Indian food. I grew to love Indian food on my mission. I grew to love any food on my mission. I was a very picky eater. Um, and so I started going to other doctors and was like, okay, like, and he said, or it could be due to stress. And he's like, just don't stress out. And I remember when he said that, and the things that went through my mind was to not stress out. Okay, I just have to train a new elder how to speak Scottish because he still didn't know, even after a month, he still had no idea what people were saying. So I'm under him, and then I have to teach souls to come unto Christ or we'll be damned. Like it was just kind of like there was like so much weight. And he's like, don't stress out. And I was like, how do you not stress out on a mission? So I was like, okay, that doesn't sound right. So then I was like, okay, that's still hurting. I want to go see another doctor. So he was see another doctor, and he's like, you know what? It could be cancer. And I was like, hold up. Cancer? Did you say cancer? Cancer sounds great. So I told that to President Frederick at the time, and I was like, President Frederick, like, I don't want to have cancer. Like, I don't want to do this. So the doctor was like, okay, you need a colonoscopy. And I was like, okay, that sounds fun. So it's just my mission wasn't, I mean, anyway, so I'm going to keep going. So the only place to get the colonoscopy was in Edinburgh. So we go to see that doctor, and um, he's like, okay, here's the stuff that you need to take, which I don't know if you've ever had.
Okay. Never done that.
You've never done that? Okay.
I have.
Oh, you have? Okay. So there's powder that you take in order to clean your system. And as a missionary, that just means that you, like, for anyone, like, you just don't do anything that day. And I remember Sister Frederick was like, "Okay, do you want some Powerade to mix your powder, or do you want something else?" And I was just like, do you have? And she's like, "I have Fresca," and I was like, "Sure, I'll take Fresca." So I mixed this powder with Fresca, and I can no longer drink Fresca.
I understand. I
It's
can
yeah.
no longer have lemon lime Gatorade.
Ooh, see, yeah, you just can't. The smell, the taste. So can no longer have Fresca. And I remember taking a tally of how many times I went to the bathroom. I put that in my mission planner. That was a fun. I'll have to look back and see how many times. Um, so then as we go to the procedure, Elder Stoddard's with me, and we're in the dock, and he's just like, "Okay, like you're not going to be completely out," which was unusual for colonoscopy. They usually put you out. He's like, "You're not going to be completely out, but you will be drugged." So he's like, "And who's your friend?" And I was like, "Oh, this is my companion." And so the doctor like goes to him. He's like, "Okay, I need you to remember certain things because other Trottier is gonna like Travis is gonna be knocked out and he's not gonna remember stuff, but I need you to remember." And I thought this is going to be the worst. He was like, "What?" Oh man. So I remember getting a colonoscopy, and again, I remember being awake and then putting the air in the camera, and I remember the nurses, and you let air out because they put air in, and I remember these wonderful nurses, and I thought, "I'm so sorry." I was so embarrassed, but they didn't find anything, which was a good
Good.
sign. So that's a good sign. And so we ranked up, or we determined that my stomach problems was just irritable bowel syndrome, and that I shouldn't stress out, and that I should exercise more. And I was like, I'm walking every day. I don't know what other exercise. So I left my boy, and I keep calling him my boy, my son, Elder Stoddard, in Kilmarnock, and I got transferred to be to go to Alloa with Elder Shenton, Jonathan Shenton. Um, and I don't know if you knew him. You were no, he was a young English uh, missionary, and I liked him. I'm trying to remember where he was from, but I can't remember. And he's just like, "Just call me Elder Shent, like 50 Shent." And I was like, "Okay, I can call you that." Oh, backtrack. I got to backtrack to Elder Stoddard. One thing that got him to do stuff was he liked to rap. And so he would write down lyrics, and he would come up with a rap, and a chorus, and I would sing the chorus and he would do the rap. And we did that for a church activity. I think it was someone's birthday that they were celebrating at the church. And so Elder Stoddard rapped and I sang chorus, and it was horrible, but it got him out of his shell and it was super fun and I liked it.
That's
So
cool.
he has to do some more raps and he should post his raps. Um, so I got to be with 50 Shint and Alloa, and he was a cool kid. And Alloa was great, right? And I wanted to be next to Sterling. There were the Alloa and then Sterling, but we met in the same ward. But we were separated because I think Sterling was in Dundee, but Alloa was in um, Edinburgh zone. Or were they two different wards? Anyway, I knew that the elders and us were so close. Like our flats were really close. Um, and we hung out a lot with them and did stuff with them. And Jonathan Shenton got me into Elder Shenton got into Top Thumbs, or the
Trumps.
Top Trumps. That's it, Trumps. He
My
got me into
kids, my kids just got a deck for Christmas from my from my brother-in-law who served in the UK.
dude. That's awesome.
Disney Trumps.
Oh, that's cool. I have a Star
Pretty
Wars
fun.
one. That's pretty fun. So he got me into that, and I love that. Um, he was a good kid. So in Alloy, I was still having stomach problems, and I was only with him. I think I was only with Elder Shenton for like 6 weeks, and they moved me to the mission home, um, just because I pretty much wasn't working. Um, so they moved me to the mission office to be with Elder Money, Ryan Money, and that was a very interesting time. As an office elder, they put me in charge of phones and cars and mail. And then Elder Money was in charge of the computer stuff. I think just record keeping and other stuff like that. And then the office couple were still the Marshes, which I don't know if you knew the Marshes. Okay. And then Prison Sister Frederick were there. Um, and so that was an interesting time. Elder Money was probably at this point the hardest elder that I had to work with. He, so I kind of had an excuse, and I would say it was an excuse because it shouldn't have been something that stopped me from working. But I was sick and my stomach hurt. He just didn't want to work. And he got to the point where he didn't want to take care of himself. And so I remember the assistants, which was Elder Pilkington and Elder Stanley at the time. And Elder Money would not shower or put on deodorant or just do his hair. Like he wouldn't have kept upkeep. Sister Vereen's would have had a field day with him, like a field day with him. As Miss Piggy, she would have said, "Here's an example of Elder Money." As Miss Piggy, no, she probably would have done that, but Sister Frederick was just kind of coming in and like trying to learn what to do and what not to do. And so Elder Pilkington and Stanley held him down and lifted up his arms and put deodorant underneath him. I remember that. And I thought, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. And during that time, it was Christmas and New Year's. And so that was a fun time to be in the mission home, to be there and just be with the mission president, with President Frederick. And I remember getting I got address books together, and that's what we gave out for zone conferences, was all the address books. So we had everyone's contact information, and pictures and stuff like that. I remember putting that together. And then for Christmas and New Year's, Elder Pilkington or Elder Stanley, I mean, since it's the mission home and the church was right there and we had keys, they're like, "Hey, let's just borrow this TV." So they took a TV from the church, which was right next door, and we watched movies for that week of Christmas to New Year's is what we did. I remember someone got on and said that they got an N64. I think it was Mace. Got an N64. So we watched movies. That was a interesting time. And I was like, I don't think we should be doing this. But since the APs are, might as well join in. So I can't remember exactly what movies we saw. But yeah, that was our like, oh, we probably shouldn't be doing this. And we stayed up, and I remember hearing the cannons for New Year's and off the Edinburgh Castle for New Year's. And that was pretty cool. And I thought, oh man, that would be so cool to go be that part of that party, to go for Hogmanay.
Yeah.
That would have been awesome. Maybe one year we'll go out and do that. So that was Elder Money. We didn't do a lot of work at all, Elder Money and me. So we had Elder Lucas and Elder Wong, who were near us, and I would go and do stuff with them. Not completely, because I remember I didn't go to any Chinese teaching, but I remember going and knocking doors with them. And I remember them coming back to the mission home, and Elder Wong cooked up fried rice, and made us fried rice for lunch. And I remember he put sriracha, which I've never had sriracha before, He put sriracha on the fried rice, and now I can't have fried rice without sriracha on it. Um, I
That's
remember that.
great.
So, Elder Wong, you did. You're in my heart still for fried rice. I always remember you. And I look in the cover and I see sriracha and I think of him. Um, so I love that guy, and he did such a great work. He again was like, anyway, you heard his story.
Yeah.
He's fantastic. I mean, to come in without knowing anything of what to do, and he's like, "Hey, you're going to be Chinese speaking." Anyway, he was awesome. And so are the assistants, and they made me giggle and laugh. So after Elder Money, I got Elder Weir again, but only for a little bit in the mission office. And we did pretty good. We knew again, like we knew each other from MTC, and but he got assigned a project, and I don't know what it was, but he was kept in on the computers for like all day. I don't know what it was, and I was just like, "Oh, hey, can we go get appointments? Like, can we go do something?" And he's like, "I can't. Like, I have to do this." And I remember Elder Marsh saying, like, "Yeah, he has to stick on this work." So I didn't do much work at all in the mission office except for doing that stuff that we had going around, like the mail and all that stuff. So I remember seeing the sisters come and go, and man, those sister missionaries are awesome. Sister Strainer, no, oh, now I'm forgetting their names. Anyway, Ashley, Ashley something. Anyway, they were great sisters, and they helped me kind of better myself. I remember they would go out in the mornings and do something, and then they'd come back almost every time for lunch, and they would just kind of plop around in the office and just kind of diddle and not really do anything. And I was like, "What are you sisters doing here? Why don't you go out and work?" But they would just chill anyway for a little bit, and then they go back out again. So they'd always have fun with Sister Frederick or Sister Black in the kitchen. So that was a fun time. And oh, here's the other story. Here's another good story. As I was in the mission office, this is when Elder Oaks was coming um, to do to speak and to do something in the stake, and so he was going to talk with all the missionaries. Um, the day he came, I had a serious chest infection to where I ended up. I remember this vividly. I do not remember that day wholly. Like I don't remember like everything that happened. All I remember is I wasn't feeling good. Someone took me to the hospital. I ended up with ice packs around my chest and body because I had such a high fever. I couldn't hear Elder Oaks talk that day, but I felt much better like at like 3 or 4. And so I got back and they were just finishing he was just finishing speaking, and so we didn't walk in. And I don't remember who was with me, but we didn't walk in. Um it wasn't Elder Money because I know Elder Money went. And so we got back, and so we were having dinner with Elder Oaks. And I remember sitting down with the assistants and with Elder Oaks, and we had dinner, which was a fantastic time. And he told stories about a radio. Um, and then as we were finishing dinner, um, Elder Money asked for a blessing. And I thought, what nerve. But I was like, whatever. He probably had something, but he wanted a blessing from Elder Oaks. And I thought, I've just come back from the hospital. I feel like I should be asking for a blessing. But I didn't. And I remember what Elder Oaks said, which I'll remember this forever. He said, "Don't ask me for a blessing." Or he said, "You shouldn't be asking me for a blessing when the same person with the same priesthood and power is sitting right at the head of the table, which was President Frederick. And I thought, if he has the same power and stuff, I have the same power. Why don't you ask me for a blessing? Anyway, so I just remembered that it's just like, it doesn't matter who is the voice. You are the voice for the Spirit. It doesn't matter who you are, what you've done. If you're an apostle, if you're not an apostle, it doesn't matter. Like, it's the Lord giving a blessing. So I remember sitting in the room, and President Oaks gave Elder Money a blessing, and he asked if I wanted one. And I said, no, I'm okay. President Oaks or Elder Oaks, I'm okay. But I just came from the hospital. But we're fine. Don't worry about me. But worry about my companion. So I remember that. That was a fun time. I've been to a lot of hospitals out there.
Man.
So, and I'm talking a lot, but I love saying this stuff. So after the office, I went to.
So how long were you in the mission home?
I was in there for, I want to say 3 months. I was definitely there for Christmas and New Year's. I think I did January. And then Elder Weir came in, and I was with him for 6 weeks. And then that was it. So 3 transfers probably. Something like that. I would say something like that. And the people from Edinburgh, the Edinburgh War, I had to shout out to Patty Lou. She was a member, and I loved her. The bishop was awesome, but I remember he was manic depressive, and he hit depression hard when I was there. Like, they're like, oh, you're gonna love the bishop, you're gonna love him. And I remember meeting him, and he was great, but then like the next time I met him, he was like so sour and so like mean. And he was just like, yeah, I'm kind of done. And I was like, you're done? Anyway, but he was manic depressive. Like, he had a condition, and that was hard to see, and just how different people go through different things in life. And how they cling to the Savior is pretty awesome to see. So loved Edinburgh. Loved the members there. I still remember the smell of the breweries, and I'll always remember that smell. In that high street, I loved Edinburgh. I would live there. I love that place. From there, I went to Pollock, and that was fun. So they're like, "Here's Edinburgh, now go to Glasgow," and I was like, "Okay, Glasgow sounds great. Let's go to Pollock." And I went there, and I became companions with Elder Jim. I'm gonna butcher his first name, but Demron Ashton and Robert Nettleship. And I love Elder Ashton. He is phenomenal, and you need to get him on. Big guy from Utah. I remember he told me he worked at a butchery place, or I can't remember. It was some place where they had cows, and he had to kill the cows with that metal gun. And I thought that's such. He told me that. He's just this big farm guy. He does cars now. I see him on Facebook. Anyway, he's like, yeah, cow would come, boom, dead cow would leave. Live cow would come, boom, dead cow would leave. And I was like, dude, that sounds horrible. How do you do that? He's like, well, it's just a job. And I was like, okay, just a job. So I loved him. We were in a threesome in Pollock, and I love those guys. We were only in there for, I think, a transfer, the three of us. Maybe more. Anyway, I think it was the three of us for a transfer, and then I was with Elder Nettleship, who was a great guy. And then with him for a transfer in Pollock, and then I got a new companion. So Elder Nettleship and I went to Loch Lomond, and I'll always remember going to Loch Lomond with him and singing the song. And he actually, on Facebook, he posted him and his wife going to Loch Lomond, And then he put a picture of me and him and him and his wife together, and it was like, Elder Trottier, I have definitely a better companionship now than I ever did with you. And I was like, ah ha ha, that's hilarious. So he rubbed that. He was a good guy. Um, and then stayed in Pollock with I got a new companion, Elder Eric Gregerson, and he was then so I didn't have very many companions that I didn't get along with, but he was one of them. So him, Elder Martin, and I kind of didn't get along, but Gregerson and I just were not clicking. We just did not. We were just so different, and I don't know why. But he's a good guy now, and you haven't had him on. He's pretty busy. He's an airline pilot now, but cool. He's a cool kid. We just didn't get along. We just didn't focus, or we just didn't drive on certain things. By this time, I knew I needed more exercise so that I can stay healthy and work, which is what I learned kind of during the office. Like I need to go and exercise and do stuff. And so I would get up at 6 in the morning. And this is in the summertime where it's like light at like 5 o'clock. And so I would get up at 6 and I would go run by myself. And in Pollock, we had this flat that was right next to a river. And I remember running the river, the path along the river. And so I'm big into doing races and walking and running now. Try to keep that going. And so every time I go next to a river with trees and I see the shade or it starts raining, I just think of Scotland every time. And so I remember that time I was alone by myself running and exercising. And then I'd get back and Elder Gregerson would be in the shower. I just remember him taking long showers. And so I would do my studying while he was showering because it was so long. And then I would kind of nap and sleep for a little bit. For like 20, 15 minutes, I would just sleep while we were supposed to do companionship study, but I was sleeping, and then I'd go get ready and shower and do stuff. So we kind of didn't really click or jive, and it was fun. I remember one story. We were on a bus going to either I think it was a media referral that we got for in Glasgow area, just right outside. So we get on the bus, and by this time in my mission, I have perfected sleeping for 10 to 15 minutes. And so I'd get on the bus and I'd sleep there. And then right before, like 2 stops before, I'd wake up. And so this one time, I woke up and I got off the bus and Elder Gregerson just kept going. And I thought, well, this isn't good. He didn't wake up. And so I think it was like maybe 2 or 3 stops. And then he got off and started running up to me. That was fun. Anyway, I remember, and then going to the meat referrals and we'd watch Finding Faith in Christ or the Restoration. I remember we watched the Restoration, and right when they would say like the seed is planted for faith, I'd fall asleep. And then I would wake up and be totally refreshed when the first vision would appear and I could see how they were watching. For somehow I would just, it was perfect cat nap. Because I don't know if, I remember some people saying in the podcast that they would sleep too. But yeah, I perfected it. I would just get so comfy and watching the movie that I just fall asleep and just hear it and then wake up right in time. So that was a great time. You were just so tired from everything. Just so tired. So after Gregerson and Pollock, I then went to Stranraer with Elder Borgelthos, Michael Borgelthos. And I loved Stranraer. I loved that place. Right next to the coast, on a very clear day, which didn't happen very often, a very clear day, you could see Ireland. Is what people said. You could see Ireland, and the ferry would leave Stranraer and go to Ireland and come back. And I remember saying to myself, like, I should just do it. We should just one P day, get on the ferry, and just go to Ireland. Um, but I was just too scared. I didn't want to break rules. I didn't want to do that. Another board with us he was very to the T, like, nope, we're not doing it. And I was like, yeah, but we could. We could go to Ireland. Um, and now that it's the same mission, I'm like, I should have done it. It's the same mission now. I should have done it, Jack. I should have done it.
You did the right thing.
No, I should have done it. One is a lifetime opportunity. I should have just left. Get on the ferry. Other people went to Orkney. That's further away than Ireland was. I mean, that was like an hour. This was only 30 minutes away. Anyway, I remember Stranraer. We met. Yeah, the ward met, or the branch met in a bank, an old bank. That was an interesting time. Sacrament was super fun. It was done at like a bank teller. It was just whatever they did. I mean, the Scottish people were amazing. They just did what they had to do, and they knew they loved the Lord, and so they do anything they could. So I remember doing that at bank teller and giving out the water and the bread from there. That was fun time. Fun story from there. The bishop and his wife really liked me, and so they were like, "Hey, let's call your parents." And I was like, by this time, again, I've already talked to him more often because I called him about my cancer, called him out my grandparents, my 3 grandparents who died. So I was like, sure, you want to call my parents? Like, call them. That's fine. And so, so they called my parents, and my mom answered the phone. And so she's from Virginia, so she has a Southern accent, not fully, but a little bit of Southern accent. And then these people from Stranraer are calling in such a heavy Scottish accent and such a different dialect for Stranraer that my mom, I could hear her on the other side of the phone, had no idea what the bishop's wife was saying, had no idea. And then she would then be, I mean, she was like, oh, hi. And the bishop's brother's wife was like, what'd she say? And I was like, oh, she said hello. Like, she said hi. And so I'm not meaning to talk to my parents, but I'm translating while I'm sitting on their couch listening to someone say, what'd your mom say? And then I'd say it back. And then my mom would be like, wait, what'd she say? And so I'd say,
That's great.
that was a fun time. Love that. We didn't really, again, I didn't have a ton of success in most of my places. The most I did was in Pollock, but I don't remember teaching them, or I don't remember some of the baptisms, but apparently I have it down here. Like, we had 3 baptisms or 2 baptisms, 1 confirmation. I had no idea. I just can't remember them. It's so hard. So then from Elder Borgerthos, who's super fun, I thought I was going to end my mission with him. But then when I found out my brother was going to get married soon, they were like, okay, we're going to move you. And so we're like half a transfer. I went to my last companion, my last area was Risdell Keith, with Elder Postak. Jordan Postak. He was a cool kid. His name it's Postak, and I was like, how do you pronounce your name? And he goes, it's Postak. And I was like, got it. I got it. We're good. So, and I was with him for 3 weeks, and that was it. He was a cool elder, good guy. So I remember doing that. So that was my mission. I had 14 companions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 areas.
Quite the journey.
Never made it to Dundee. Was never in the Dundee zone at all. And I knew I wanted to be because I know there's going to be a temple in Dundee. I can probably call it. There's going to be a temple in Dundee.
Think that's the place for the Scotland Temple?
I think so. The elders were just everyone was just like, oh, the members are perfect in Dundee. Oh, we're having so much work done. And I remember that. I remember when Martin and McConkey got to be zone leaders, and I know you've heard from both of them. I remember they were doing great in Irving. They were doing fantastic work. But I remember them being just stupid zone leaders, and they were thought, oh, we're going to change the mission. So I remember they came into our flat in Kilmarnock with Elderstodder, and they took our CDs because we were listening to, and they took like instrument. I think it was like some band, but they were just instruments of the songs. And so we weren't even listening to like bad songs, but they took them. And I was like, what are you guys doing? They're like, you can't be listening to these. And I was like, what? Like, whatever. So they were just being stupid. But I was like, it's Elder Martin, whatever. But they were a good companionship. And I just, when I listen to these podcasts, more memories just come to my mind. And I think of more elders that just impacted my life, or zone conferences that did it. I remember Elder King and Elder Hewlett having problems. I remember talking to him about that, and his spiky hair, and that's what I remember. So my impression of Zach was how rigorous he was to Elder King, because Elder King and I were we were at the same level, and so I was like, well, Elder Hewlett's not fun. But he was a fun guy. Like, he was happy and joyful, but I was like, he's pretty straight arrow. So I don't know if,
It's because I trained him.
that's probably what it was. Not at all. But, and how we ebb and flow in the mission was pretty cool. I was really super shy. And then by the end of it, like, I loved everything, and I would talk so much, and it was good. But yeah, I know you need to get Elder Kahane on here. Is he scheduled at all?
I don't think so.
Okay. I'll message him. He definitely needs to get on here. That Hawaiian, he's a good kid.
He was in my last area was Glenrothes. I think he served there my last 3 months. He was in the Kirkcaldy ward with me, but with the other, the other companionship that was in the ward. So yeah.
Get him on. I mean, I'll message him.
Help us get to him. Yeah.
And I know I talked a lot, and I can keep going on just of stuff.
Anybody else you want to shout out? Name drop.
Man. Now that you said that, I'll have to think, like, give me 2 seconds. I'm thinking here. Yeah. Churko. Joshua Churko. You get him on. Garrett Smith. He was in our. I actually went after the mission. I went and saw him. He's from Idaho. I remember flying out from Florida to Utah, renting a car and driving up and being with him in Malta, Idaho. His family had a mink farm, which stink so bad. But his family and he was great. We went shooting rabbits and doing dry ice. I mean, shooting coyotes too out of his car. I was like, this is insane. He's like, this is Idaho. I was like, this is fine. He's like, this is fine. So
I'd like to meet him. He's in or at least up there. He came from my aunt and uncle and my grandpa live in his stake. So yeah. I heard he was coming, but I never met him on the mission. That's what
he's awesome. He's awesome. He became really like a good friend to me on that.
Yeah, so definitely when we publish this, post it on all your socials and tag everybody and do some promotion for us.
Sure will. So this is actually inspired me to do my own kind of podcast.
Yeah.
Because then since hearing you guys, and I was just like, I'm not very good at writing a journal. Like I'm not very good at writing, and remembering things. And so as I've been listening, I was like, I need to put this down in an audio journal. So I'm going to start an audio podcast journal for myself. I've already done 2 hours, so I need to do more. Just because this is great. Like what you guys are doing, like this is really helping. So
That's cool. Glad to hear it.
hope I can get on more with other companions. I'll try to get on double and just kind of go through stuff to remember.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I was trying to think of something that you guys mentioned. Anyway, so yeah, I'll get on with it. And
well, thank you very much for coming on. And
yeah,
you've contributed before, like you wrote in when we asked for stuff when we met with the Brainses. And so, thanks for your support and everything.
I cried when I heard that podcast. I love them. I don't think he'll truly understand how much. I think he knows how much we love him, but not nearly as much, man. I mean,
yeah, the magnitude, the impact that Mission President has on somebody's life, incredible.
I remember when my grandma died. I remember him pulling me aside and just giving me a hug, and he usually gave big bear hugs. Like I remember him always doing that, but he gave me the most gentle, loving, fatherly hug that I knew came from my dad through him. Like I knew that, and so, but he'll know that one time. He'll know that one day. He'll know that.
Definitely.
So,
and I know actually the Brains' kids have been listening to these, and they really appreciate hearing those memories, those moments. So
good.
It's great.
Good.
Well, love you, Travis.
Okay, I know I took up a lot of your time, so
that's what we do.
I just remembered. I mean, you guys talk about stuff that comes to my mind, like cookies. I never got a big cookie.
I don't think I did either. But
did you get peanut butter? So that was Sister Frederick's thing. She'd either give you peanut butter or jam for your birthday, and it was always Skippy peanut butter from the one Costco that was there. Anyway,
nice.
I remember stuff. It just keeps coming back when I hear stuff. So I'm glad that we're doing this. So okay, I'll sign off.
That's all right. Thanks, Travis.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Jack.
Bye.